there, fellow Star Wars nerds, and welcome to Unlimited Content, the podcast where two brothers talk about all of Star Wars TV and film in chronological order on the internet. Excuse to hang out more. We're your hosts, Sam and Jack, and this week we are talking about Clone Wars Season 1, Episodes 8 through 10, Bombad Jedi, Cloak of Darkness, and Lair of Grievous. Jack Ford, how are you?
That was a lot in one breath. That was impressive.
That was two breaths, to be fair.
No, I mean, you took one breath near sort of before chronological, and then you just kept going.
I did.
And there were 3 episode titles to get through that time, so it's especially impressive. I'm doing pretty good. Feeling pretty good today. I wish it was less hot in Texas. It's been triple digits for weeks now.
Barf.
Yeah, I think we've hit the record for the most triple digit days in July.
Congratulations.
In Texas. Yeah.
You did it.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm good. It was warm, and then yesterday a big thunderstorm rolled through, and now it is 8 o'clock, and it is 78 degrees on the last day of July. So
that is not bad.
It was not bad. It's very muggy. But yeah, the storm last night was gnarly.
Gnarly.
Yeah, Sarah and I were getting ready for bed, and we heard a tree fall down in our neighbor's backyard, and it knocked down their power. So, yeah,
that's a bummer for them.
It is a bummer for them. And as of right now, no one's come to do anything about that down power line. So, oops. I don't know if they called it in, but I definitely called it in just to be like, hey, I don't know if, they did it or anything, the report that there's a down power line in the backyard, but I know that they know that they don't have power. But I also know that they don't speak very good English. So I'm like, maybe I should I'll just give them a call. Just be like, hey, my neighbors have a down power line in the backyard. Don't know if it's been called in, but I'll go ahead and call it in.
Yeah, so, better safe than sorry. That's
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So,
cool. I mean, not cool for that, but...
Indeed. Yeah. But, long story short, it is not 100 degrees in Kansas City.
That's cool. That is literally cool.
It is literally
and
cool.
Figuratively cool.
It's not literally that cool. It's only 78.
It's cooler than...
It's substantially cooler than what you got. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, we have a sponsor today.
Do we really?
For this episode of Unlimited Content. Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. This week's episode of Unlimited Content is brought to you by the 4 days a year when the temperature is perfect in Texas. Yeah, I feel like there's a total of 4 days throughout the year when it's just the perfect, it's 68 and sunny and not muggy, and it's there's a breeze and it's nice.
Yeah.
And every other day of the year is either extremely hot or extremely cold, or uncomfortably warm at least.
Yeah.
You know.
Although the exception to prove the rule, do you remember the beginning of COVID, the 2 weeks to flatten the curve where everyone stayed at home and the weather was perfect for that 2 weeks?
I don't specifically remember that, but I believe
it was because I remember because it was it was the end of March, beginning of April of COVID, and me and Sarah we spent every evening on our front porch drinking margaritas.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and because that's all we could do because it was the first 3 or 4 weeks of COVID. And
you think maybe the Earth cooled off for a bit because everybody was staying inside?
It's
and
possible. I mean, I know pollution dropped to a record low, from pre-industrial revolution times.
Nature is returning. Nature's taking over.
I remember seeing those crazy clips of dolphins in the canals in Venice, or
whales in the Hudson River or whatever.
Yeah, bonkers. But yeah,
yes.
Anyway, we don't have that right now.
No.
Oops.
Anyway. Sam, what have you been up to in the last week?
Well, in the last week I was in Texas with you.
True.
That was fun.
Yes. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, so we recorded an episode. You guys have already heard this by now. We recorded that episode. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, by the logic of how our podcast works.
Indeed.
You would have heard that one now.
Because we release episodes in chronological order.
True.
What? But yeah, no, after that recording, long drive back to Kansas City, and then a little bit of work, and then a weekend, and then some more work, and now I'm here. That's really all I've done. That is my life.
I also don't have a whole lot to talk about this time. We had our Dallas trip. It was really nice getting to see everybody together in one place. Like it had been, I think, pretty much to the day a year since all of us had been together in one place. And I don't think Marion was with us. Your daughter was with us at that time. Yeah, so it was like, it's been like maybe a year and a half or more since I had seen Marion. And she's 2.5 years old, so she's much bigger than
I know. She's I think the last time you saw her was her first Thanksgiving, and now she's closer to 3 than 2. So
yes.
Yeah.
And I was remarking to my friends earlier today that she is simultaneously very small and very big to me.
She is.
She's like, just like when she was like sitting on the couch in the living room at home, and I was like, oh, she's so tiny. She's a tiny person, But then also knowing that she's 2.5, but she's like the size of a 4-year-old.
She is,
right?
She is. Yeah.
She's very big. She's a big girl.
She gets her height from me.
Yeah.
Why did you laugh at that?
No reason. Nope.
I'm the tall one in my relationship, not my tall wife. What are you talking about? Yeah. My wife is substantially taller than me. So, yeah. There you go. Anyway. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
She comes from a family of tall folk.
She does come from a family of tall folk. That's true.
Whereas we come from a family of fairly average height.
Average to below average. Yeah.
I mean, Max is pretty tall. Max is the tallest. He's the outlier.
He is the outlier, but he's also like average height for a dude.
I mean, I guess.
Or like a little above average. How tall is he?
He's taller than me. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I don't either.
Max, tell us how tall you are.
Max, call in. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know how tall you are. It's the only way we can figure it out.
It's the only way we're allowed to communicate with people now is via voicemail on our podcast.
Yeah, and there's a 4-week delay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So that was great. Getting to hang out, getting to record a podcast in person, get to see everybody. We also, probably by this point you will have seen this, but we have new album art now. No, not currently in the moment that we're recording this, but we will.
Yeah, I get it. I need to do it. I'm sorry.
No, we're good. There's no rush. But so when we first started the podcast and created the album art, Sam just grabbed a couple pictures of us like from Facebook that were, good pictures of us, but they were also like at the time they were like 8 years old or something, like the picture we're using for me is like from my freshman year of college, and I graduated college over like almost 5 years ago. And so it's an old picture of us. So what we did while we were in person together in Dallas last week is we took the opportunity to just do a little photo shoot with the two of us, take a bunch of fun pictures to just have some stuff to put on our album art that looks more like current us.
It does. So,
yeah. And that was fun. I thought we got some good pictures.
Oh, yeah, I was really happy with it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Who knows what it'll look like? What the final product will look like? You people will know, but
y'all
don't
will know
currently.
By now, y'all are probably looking at it on your phone or on your Apple CarPlay or on your laptop
or whatever it is
on your TV, or I don't know how you listen to podcasts other than those ways.
On all the various devices, you can listen to unlimited content.
Yeah, unlimited ways to listen to unlimited content.
It's true.
Yay!
It really is. Well, yeah. And then in terms of like, stuff that I've been like watching or playing, it's just kind of all the same stuff that I've been, I'm still catching up on Critical Role because I've been several episodes behind for a while now, and those are long episodes, so I've had plenty of time to do that. And then I'm still simulating some power washing. And,
yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Dude, I was gonna say I've been meaning to ask you about Critical Role, because apparently there's a new season coming out of Critical Role, like a new thing. Can I just jump in at like a new season? Do I have to go back to the very beginning and listen and like catch up with everything?
Okay, so there's a few ways of answering that. So there are the main campaigns for Critical Role, which are like the big ones. It's like it's the main cast of the same kind of set of actors who are in it, and those all take place in the same universe. And then there's also a couple of shorter like spin-off campaigns that take place in the same universe, and then they also have some other campaigns that are completely separate, that are like their own stories, and like sometimes they play different RPG systems and stuff. So like I think maybe the one that you're thinking about right now is there was one that I think they just finished like the first season of this show. It's called Candela Obscura, and it's kind of like a gothic horror, like fantasy type situation, mystery thing. I haven't watched it yet, but it looks good. And there's that. And anyway, so to answer your question, there are a bunch of different places you could start Critical Role. I think that if you wanted to, you could start with any of the 3 campaigns.
Got it. Because I was like kind of on the fence of whether or not I wanted to like start like listening to Critical Role, but then like I saw a promo for it. Apparently Hank Green is in a new season.
That is not Critical Role. That's different. Yeah, that is another great show called Dimension 20.
I thought they were the same thing. Oops.
Nope. Yeah. They've had some crossover with like different, like Brennan Lee Mulligan is the DM for Dimension 20, or for most of Dimension 20. And he has come over and been a guest DM for Critical Role. He DM'd a short mini series campaign.
That's called, my confusion, because I just know Brennan Lee Mulligan is like half of my TikTok feed right now. And so, because he's hilarious, and I'm a big fan.
Yes, I love Brennan Lee Mulligan. He's super smart and funny, and for those of you who don't know, Brennan Lee Mulligan is a comedian, improviser, and also a dungeon master. So he works for the company College Humor. They have a streaming service now called Dropout that is a like $5 a month. We're not sponsored. I just this just happens to be. Yeah, no. Well, if anybody from Dropout is listening, we'd love to be sponsored by you. But it's the one, like, it's a very small streaming service, but all the stuff on there is like really good quality, and it's cheap, and it's just so there's like a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons campaigns and other various RPG campaigns, most of which are run by Brennan Lee Mulligan, and there's a bunch of like comedy improvisation shows. There's one show in particular I do want to actually quickly talk about because it's so great. It's called Game Changer.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what most of my Brennan Lee Mulligan content on TikTok is that show. Mm-hmm. The clips from that show.
Yes. So Game Changer I think they're on season like 5 now. Or they like just finished up season 5, but it's the premise of the show. It's a game show where the premise of the game changes every show, and part of the game is the players trying to figure out what the rules are, basically. So, they all come in, and there's like 3 contestants, and they stand at podiums, and, the goal is different every time. But like, it's so, because of that, every episode is different, and it's super creative and smart, and like, there's so many just brilliant, super great episodes. And because they mostly take all of their contestants from College Humor and from all, so there's like, it's all like really smart, funny, clever improvisers being put in these kind of ridiculous situations and having to think on their feet, and it's brilliant. Honestly, there's so many great episodes. There's some that you can watch for free on YouTube, I think, and then the rest are on Dropout. But definitely recommend that. But yeah, Brennan Lee Mulligan is the DM for Dimension 20, and they've had a bunch of different campaigns and a bunch of different like universes and things, and he's also done stuff for Critical Role. Critical Role is run by Matthew Mercer, who's a voice actor.
The voice of Ganon, right?
Yes, he is the voice of Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Among many other things, he's he's Crom from Fire Emblem. He was one of the voices of Leon Kennedy from one of the Resident Evil things. Not the original one, and not the remake, but he was in some other stuff. I don't know. I'm not doing a great job of selling every single one of the actors on Critical Role. They're all voice actors. Is kind of the premise. Is that this is it's a Dungeons and Dragons campaign where a bunch of voice actors get together and play. And so they're all like, in addition to being just kind of like good improvisers and being funny, because they're all friends, they know each other, they're also very talented with doing voices and stuff. And it's a kind of like the idealized version of what D&D would be, almost like, because you get these players who are all like very skilled at acting and role playing already. So they're all great, and they all have a ton of different, like, if you look at the kind of the resumes and the filmography of all the people that are on this show, it's kind of incredible. Laura Bailey, for example, she is there are multiple BAFTA winning actors
No
on
way.
Critical Role. Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson have both won BAFTAs for being in the Last of Us games.
Oh.
Ashley Johnson plays Ellie, and Laura Bailey plays I can't remember she's the other person you play as in The Last of Us Part 2, who's I can't, for whatever reason, her name is, hold on, I have to Google this because I feel, okay, hold on.
You're good.
I've played this game. It's a long game, and I've watched multiple video essays about it, and like I know who this. Why can't I remember? Hold on.
Like a main character, or like
Abby. Yes, she is the, like, there are basically two protagonists of The Last of Us Part 2, and she's one of them. It's Ellie, and this other person, Abby, is the character. So there you go. I won't go further into it because spoilers, but anyway,
rock on.
Yeah, if you want to know where to start with Critical Role, I will let you know. But I feel like this tangent has gone on long enough.
It is, yeah, this is quite the tangent. But hey,
it's gone in 8 different directions. You know, it started with Critical Role, and then went to Dropout, and then went to The Last of Us, and now we're back.
Yay, we did it.
Anyway.
Jack,
well, all right.
Did you have a question that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So, I was talking to you earlier, and I had this idea of, I feel like there have been several episodes recently where we haven't necessarily had a lot to talk about in terms of what we've been up to, just because, you know, sometimes it's just the same as last week. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it would be fun to have, like, for those weeks where we don't have a lot to talk about outside of the main segment, if we had like a bonus discussion just about some topic. Ooh. And I had this idea about, I don't know what the other topics could be, but I had one idea that I'm excited about. Is so like in one of our recent episodes, or at least one of the ones that came out recently, we were talking about music that we listened to growing up. We were talking about like Rush and Foo Fighters, and I was talking about Coheed and Cambria, and and then earlier, like within the past week, you and I were talking a bit about like Foo Fighters and what our favorite Foo Fighters albums were and things like that. And so that got me thinking. I thought it would be cool to talk about like, what albums do you have been kind of the most important to you in your life? Like, which ones stick out as like being significant, either in terms of like it was just like your favorite album at a particular time, or it was like your introduction to an artist you really liked, or, you know, like, is there like a does anything come to mind, I guess, for that?
Well, when it comes to like artist introductions and like an album that introduced me to, like, I don't know, certain artists, like one of the albums that comes to mind initially is Seven Swans by Sufjan Stevens.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, I don't know if it was the first like album by Sufjan that I listened to, but it was the one when I first heard of Sufjan that I listened to the most. If that makes sense. Because I think I heard of like the classics like Casimir Pulaski Day and like Chicago and like off of like the Illinois album. But the Seven Swans album, it's a very like stripped down acoustic album. And I like had that on repeat like junior and senior year of college. It was that and like a handful of other albums. It was like that one, and like there was an album by an artist named Josh Garrels, kind of like a contemporary Christian like indie artist. It's also a similar vibe. It was Over Oceans by Josh Garrels. So like I think like my second half of college was I listened to a lot of like indie acoustic melodramatic kind of music. I don't know if in hindsight that would like give a view into like where my brain was at towards the end of college, but I start therapy again this week, so I'll talk about it there. But yeah, so I don't know.
Thank you to our former sponsor, Therapy.
Yeah, the concept of therapy. Thank you, concept of therapy. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that was my introduction to a couple artists. But is that what you're looking for? Like,
I guess I'll tell you what I was kind of thinking about,
and then I'll answer accordingly.
Yeah, you can, if anything else comes up for you, like,
sweet.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about like how, like, growing up, the music that I listened to for the most part was either like most of the music that I listened to like when I was young was stuff that either I knew about through other media that I consumed, so stuff from movies. So I listened to a lot of like John Williams scores.
We both did.
Yeah, I listened to like a lot of Star Wars, obviously, but also like Superman and Indiana Jones and E.T. And just like that was kind of what was on my dinky Best Buy MP3 player or whatever I had at the time, you know.
Yeah.
Or
like, was it one of those like SanDisk things, or like what did you have?
It was Insignia, so it was like a Best Buy brand.
Yeah, I had the that like blue.
I remember
my little blue Insignia, or not Insignia, SanDisk. It was 0.5 gigabyte, and it was operated with a AAA battery.
I remember that one. Yeah.
That was my first ever MP3 player, and I had it loaded up with John Williams scores, Switchfoot albums, Rush, Boston, Queen, and Weird Al.
Excellent.
That's what was on there.
Actually, Weird Al is another one.
Yeah.
I feel like we both listened to a lot of Weird Al growing up.
We did.
The legend.
Yeah, but I remember like I like saved up my allowance for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and it was like $75 for like that 0.5 gigabyte MP3 player. And I remember a year later walking into like a Best Buy or like a Fry's Electronics or something and seeing the exact same MP3 player for $15.
Oh, technology.
Yeah, because it was
Advances
like
quickly.
2005, 2006 when I had it was like around it was like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. Where technology was expanding exponentially, and like especially like memory capacity on things.
Yes.
And flash storage was getting a lot cheaper, very fast. And so
I remember my first MP3 player that I had was it must have been a little bit later than this, but like it was, like I said, it was like just sort of a little rectangular Insignia like Best Buy store brand thing that probably also had like 500 megabytes of space on it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it had like a click wheel, basically like a kind of a knockoff iPod click wheel on it. Was kind of how you navigated.
I think I remember that. Did it have kind of like raised ridges on like the click wheel itself to give it a little traction? Yeah. I remember you having that.
And then the thing that I was excited about when I got that was it had a screen, like an actual like LCD screen on it, and I was excited because you could watch videos on it. I was like, I have my own video player, and so I like basically all I did was I went and like downloaded trailers from Apple movie trailers and put them on my, so I could just watch stuff where I was like, because that was so cool to me at the time, because like the concept of having my own kind of like digital media players or like devices was kind of novel, because it was I had like my Game Boy Advance or my DS or whatever, but that's not like a media player. That's for games pretty much exclusively. Right. And then any like computer stuff would be on the family computer. So it was a while before like I had like a dedicated device. So just the fact that I had like my own like little media player that could play video and stuff on it was super cool.
Oh yeah.
It was awful. It was like the worst, most terrible screen. It was like 320 by 240 resolution, like, but it was still exciting, But yeah, so what I was going to say is that growing up, I listened to a lot of like film scores from stuff. And then on the other hand, everything else I listened to for the most part was stuff that I learned about through you and Dad. So it was a lot of like from Dad, I learned about Rush and, like you said, like Queen in Chicago and Boston. And lots of classic rock basically through Dad. And then through you, like I remember a lot of like Foo Fighters and Beatles, and at a certain point Mumford & Sons was like that was like towards the end of high school for me with Mumford. But I remember like so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about like what was the first album that was kind of a me album, like something that I discovered that wasn't like I found out through you or Dad. And I think for me it was probably The Suburbs by Arcade Fire. That was that's like a fantastic album, isn't it? It's so good. Like, and I remember, that was the first music that you introduced me to was Suburbs by Arcade Fire, and I still like probably once a year will like listen to the album cover to cover because it's so good. It's so good. I remember that album won Album of the Year at the Grammys, and and I remember like the response to it from a lot of people was like, who's this Arcade Fire? Because it was like up against like much more well-known, more famous artists at the time, and people were like, there were like, you know, people on the internet being like, who the heck are these indie weirdos winning album of the year?
Because before that, all the people knew Arcade Fire for was the song from the Where the Wild Things Are trailer.
Yes. Yeah, Wake Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Which is an amazing song.
Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah, and then that album that it's off of, Funeral, is also a great album. But yeah, I think that's actually probably how I discovered Arcade Fire in the first place, was that song from that trailer. And then I like found out that they were coming out with a new album soon, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And so then that was the first time I kind of listened to like an album like on release, and also that I kind of got into a band on my own without like, you know, being told about you or dad or something.
Yeah.
You know, it was the first one that kind of felt like it was like mine in a way, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I loved I loved and still love that album, and Arcade Fire still has a very like important place in my heart, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's like Arcade Fire in general, but also that album specifically is very like that's high school for me, like sophomore junior year of high school probably. Listen to a lot of that. I also listen to a lot of the Shins in high school. Not a lot. I don't listen to a lot of them very much anymore, but I like, yeah, that's another band that was very like, I associate like I think Port of Morrow is one of their albums, and I listened to that specific album a lot during high school. Yeah, anyway, so that's kind of what I was thinking about. And then the other thing the thing I had in my mind was I was talking about Coheed and Cambria, of course, which is my favorite band. And I've talked a little bit about like how this is not a like based on kind of the music I typically listen to. I wouldn't expect this band to become my favorite band, but they did, and I love them now. But like at first, like the only song I knew from them was the most well known song, which is "Welcome Home." You know, it's the one that was on Rock Band and whatever. Which great song, but yeah, that was my introduction to them, and I knew about that song for a long while, but like I never like went more into the artist at that point. But then I listened to an album called "The Color Before the Sun," which is I wouldn't consider it among my favorite Coheed albums now, but it is probably the most important to me because it's the album that got me into the band. Yeah, so the Color Before the Sun it's the one album that they put out that isn't like a concept album that takes place in their like fictional universe. It's just like a kind of a standalone album, and it's much more kind of typical like rock pop, you know, a little more like generic, a little bit less out there and weird. Which makes it more like kind of approachable, I think.
Yeah, super
and that was kind of it was more accessible, and so like I got really into that album for a while, and then after listening to that album a lot, I went into like started branching, and I was like, surely there's some other stuff from this band that like I must like, right? And I started kind of at first I was like, because most of their other stuff is a little more weird and out there and less approachable, and it's all very, you know, concept heavy. It's prog rock. It's, you know, but like after listening to them for a while and kind of getting used to their sound and I don't know, I just like, for whatever reason, I ended up getting really into all their other music, but it was through this first album that I got into it, you know, and now I love their other like more concept stuff more, but at first it took me a while to kind of get into it. I feel like that happens a lot with like new game genres, for example, that I like. For example, I love like first person open world RPGs, like stuff from Bethesda, like the Fallout games. But it took me like I had to try and play Fallout 3 for like, it took me like 3 tries to like of restarting that game to actually get into it and figure out like, okay, what is the appeal here? How do I play this? How do I get into the like kind of the flow and the rhythm of it? Because I had never played a game quite like that before. But then once I got into it, I was like, oh, I get it and I love it.
Nice.
You know, so I feel like this was a kind of a similar example of that, where like it took me a while to kind of get into it, but then once it clicked, it's like, oh, I think I love this.
Yeah.
So
nice. Yeah. Now so the way you described The Suburbs by Arcade Fire is kind of how I would describe like the first kind of album that I feel like I found on my own, because you kind of said that like a lot of the music that you listened to before you kind of found your, like, before you started finding music on your own, was stuff that you'd find from me and Dad. And me similarly, it was just Dad, because I'm the oldest, so that's kind of how it goes. Yes. But yeah, so the first album that I like, Foo Fighters is kind of like the first band that I feel like I discovered on my own.
By the way, wearing a Foo Fighters shirt right now.
I'm currently wearing a Foo Fighters shirt. Earlier today was playing Foo Fighters songs on my guitar. Just
excellent.
Yeah, Sarah and I are trying to institute like no phone times, like between like when Marion's awake and I'm home from work. So like, just kind of like that dinner time to Marion down to bed. We're trying to like be like no phones. So my default has been I feel like I have some undiagnosed ADHD, and I just always need to be doing something with my hands. So I just like, whenever we're just chilling, like the three of us, I'm just like doodling on guitar. Anyway,
that's cool. Doodling.
But yeah, so I first heard the Foo Fighters from Guitar Hero 2.
Yes,
because Monkey.
Honestly, that's the third place where I got a lot of music. Was just like was playing Guitar Hero and being like discovering all these different bands and songs that I didn't know about. Like like to this day, a lot of the music I listen to, a lot of like the especially like the rock music I listen to, I learned about those artists or these songs from like one of the Guitar Hero Rock Band games.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Guitar Hero 2, Monkey Wrench was like my introduction to the Foo Fighters, and I kind of just like went off the deep end from there. The first album that I really feel like was my own was similarly like I was playing Guitar Hero like 07, 08 was like when Guitar Hero 2 came out. That's like I was really like playing on the PS2 a lot, and Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace came out in 2009, my junior year of high school. And that was the first album that they released post like me discovering them on Guitar Hero. And I remember like when they released the single and music video for The Pretender, I was like, I have never been more hyped for like a new album ever. Like, it was amazing. And so listening to Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace, their 2009 album, that album holds a very special place in my heart. I think probably similar to how The Suburbs is for you. Just like it's like beyond just like, I mean, like I listened to a lot of the Beatles in high school. I listened to a lot of like Rush and like all the stuff that like our dad listened to. But yeah, Echoes was like the first like album that I like discovered on my own and like really fell in love with and like had on repeat. And if you could wear out CDs, I did wear out that CD.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that album specifically earlier this week, because I was like, I guess I was just kind of going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole, and I was reading about like Foo Fighters albums, and I was, because I had the kind of this album like thought, like kind of train of thought going already, and I was thinking about like, you know, what are some of my favorite albums? And Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace came to mind, because that is such a great album.
It's very good.
Like I love the kind of how effortlessly it kind of oscillates between like big, like powerful hard rock stuff and more kind of soft acoustic emotional stuff. Yeah. It's you know, it's got a great balance. Anyway, so I was just kind of looking at Wikipedia, and I was surprised kind of how like it wasn't like a poorly received album, but it was like, I always thought of that album as being like one of the best Foo Fighters albums and one of my favorite albums in general. And it was like, you know, there was a lot of like 7 out of 10s. There was like a 5 out of 10 from reviews from the time, which I mean, I feel like just goes to show how subjective music is in general. But yeah, anyway, so that's kind of what led to this conversation, this train of thought.
Yeah. I think the reason that like people weren't super keen on Echoes was just kind of like the concept itself. Like you already kind of hinted on it. It kind of like goes from hard rock to like acoustic to almost folk kind of sometimes. And that kind of like very like, it kind of bounces between genres and like meld genres, and like there's some songs that will start sounding like one genre and then build into another one, or start one and like tone down into another one. Like but honestly,
that's exactly the one that was in my mind.
Is one of my favorite songs off the album. It starts off just Dave
acoustic
on acoustic guitar, and then the whole band kind of slowly creeps in as the song kind of goes on. I actually played that song with a band that I started in high school at our high school senior picnic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was just me and a bunch of guys from from marching band, and like we all kind of got together. And I was like, I want to play this song. I'm like, all right, cool. And so I did the acoustic guitar, and then like,
Rad.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, the reason like a lot of people is just they don't like that album is because it does kind of like vacillate wildly between two genres, and like the whole reason they did it, I watched a Foo Fighters documentary and like about like the history of Foo Fighters and like
back and forth, right? Yeah. So I love that documentary.
Yeah. Because they're like 2 albums before that was I think In Your Honor was in it, like that's the album that like Best of You is from, and Learn to Fly, and kind of like big like arena rock kind of stuff. And then they went on an all acoustic tour and released like a live acoustic album.
Dude, Skin and Bones.
Skin and Bones,
so good.
It's
I love
good.
That album so much.
It's so good.
I was listening to Skin and Bones like all the way through earlier this week, and I was like just wishing that they would put out like do like a Skin and Bones 2, basically, of like just, do that again, but with a bunch of the songs that have come out since then.
Right,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because Skin and Bones was like, it was an all acoustic, but also they had like they brought in guest musicians with like they're like string players and like
the keyboard player that they brought in for that. The keyboard player that they brought in for that, I think is now he's now a part of the band. Like he's like he was just like a guest musician, like in like the orchestra pit or whatever, for that acoustic thing, and now he like came back for like now he's just like a regular member of the band. Pat Smear also came back to the Foo Fighters because of that album. They like just wanted another touring guitarist, and they brought Pat Smear was he was the second lead guitarist for Nirvana. So, like he and Dave go way back. And then so like, but yeah, Echo, Silence, Patience, Grace was kind of like a meld of In Your Honor and Skin and Bones. It was like they kind of like did big and then gentle acoustic, and then like let's do both. Why not? And that's
I think actually In Your Honor it's 2 discs, and I think the first disc is like more rock, and then the second disc is kind of mellower, more acoustic stuff. It was kind of the premise of In Your Honor, and then but still I love the fact they kind of combined both of those things with Echoes. It's just anyway because Echoes is an album that has The Pretender on it, but it also has Cheer Up Boys, Your Makeup is Running, and Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners, and
Cheer Up Boys
it's just kind of all over the place.
is like kind of like it's an aggressively fast-paced song. Like it's
I actually I meant to say Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners. I for whatever reason I get those two, like I know that they're different songs, but from like the titles, like my brain mixes them up sometimes. So I meant The Pretender and Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners are very different.
They are very, very different.
Anyway, which is part of why I like
and
that.
then Home, like I think is the last track on the album is also it's just piano and Dave singing
and Dave,
and it's like a very somber song too, and that's the end of the album, right? Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. Yes, correct. Yeah. Also, I'm only correcting you because I know somebody else will if I don't.
Classic.
Learn to Fly was not on In Your Honor. It was on There's Nothing Left to Lose.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, there you go. Now you know. But
wait, anyway. So what was the big one off of? Best of You was the big one off of In Your Honor, though, right? Okay.
In Your Honor has Best of You and DOA.
DOA. Yeah. There it is. Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like we could keep talking about music for a while, but we should probably get to
this has now become a Foo Fighters podcast.
We'll have a Coheed episode later. I'll talk about my opinions on all the Coheed albums.
On the Coheed space opera or whatever it is.
I mean, basically. Man. I was just thinking like
maybe that should be our April Fool's episode. It's like it's a different space opera. Star Wars is a space opera. Coheed's a space opera.
The thing about Coheed is it's like I like the fact that there is a space opera at the center of this because I think that's cool, but also it's like I don't really care about the story of it. It's kind of bonkers and all over the place, and it's not like a clearly told story necessarily because like their albums, it's music, and so it's not like necessarily by listening to the albums you can necessarily get the precise understanding of what the story actually is.
Yeah.
But like some of them have been adapted into comic books.
Really?
Or novels. Yeah.
Nice.
So Claudio and his wife own like a comics publishing label, and they have co-written like comic book series based on the albums, on some of the albums at least. It's bonkers. It's like I don't think anybody like really. It's one of those things where like it's cool that the band has lore. It's not like people listen to the albums for the story, but the fact that it adds an extra layer of kind of uniqueness and coolness and like a little bit of a puzzle to it. Like people figuring out, like, okay, what is this song supposed to be about? What character is this about? And it's cool. Coheed, very good. Like their most recent album is maybe my favorite album, which is nuts. The fact that they're. I mean, like it.
Yeah, what's that? Because my favorite band, they have not released what I would consider like a fantastic album in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think? What was the last like great album that you think Foo released?
Oh gosh, what's it called?
Wasting Light, maybe.
Wasting Light. Yeah, I think that was their last really, really good album.
Like
Sonic Highways was good, but
there were some really good ones on Sonic.
Yeah, there were good songs on Sonic Highways, but like the album as a whole was not great. But it was a cool concept album because they did a lot of like collabs with other musicians and stuff. There was an EP that was really good. I have it on vinyl, Saint Cecilia. That's really, really good. But like, Wasting Light was kind of like, I think their last really good album because I listened to at least most of their newest album. What's it called? I don't even remember.
Hold on.
It's the Foo Fighters White Album. That's what it is in my head.
But here we are.
It's their White Album. Because that's what the cover is basically just. Yeah.
There's a very slim, like you can kind of see a horizon. Basically.
No, it's a White Album. It's okay. It was like I didn't like Concrete and Gold that much, and it was worse than Concrete and Gold.
Yeah, I haven't. I think similarly, I haven't gotten super into a Coheed album since Wasting Light. There's definitely been a bunch of like singles or like individual songs of theirs that I really liked. Like from this most recent album, I really like Under You.
That was a good song.
I think that was the second single that they released. I really liked that one. And it was also just kind of like a momentous album because it was the first one post Taylor Hawkins' death. To come out, which is I think also part of the reason why I was like I need to listen to this album. Because
the new drummer is really cool though.
It's a new era. I've heard that they have a new drummer. I don't know anything about him. But...
He was the drummer for Devo.
What?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's really good. Like I think he's definitely different than Taylor, but like I think in terms of like at least his like live performance, because I just like went back and watched a lot of videos of him performing both the Devo and then also like over the summer, Foo Fighters did a lot of like festival shows with their new drummer. I was like, dude, he's good. He's a really good live performing drummer, and I I kind of feel bad that this was like one of the first things I thought after Taylor Hawkins died. I was like, I'm never gonna see another Foo Fighters show again. It was like one of the first things, but like I'm like, oh, Foo Fighters have a good drummer again. Okay, cool. And then it's like it's like it's gonna be weird without Taylor, and like very sad, but also like I get to go to a Foo Fighters concert. Like
yeah. That's good.
Yeah, and that's what Taylor would want.
To hear that Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know him, but
I'm
sure.
That's my vibe. I know we probably should talk about Star Wars at some point, but I had a question I wanted to ask you before we transition to Star Wars. When you listen to music, are you a music first or lyrics first listener?
I'm 100% music first.
Okay. Same.
That's the way I've always been. Is like, I like lyrics for kind of just the sound of the musicality of them, but my brain doesn't really tune into like actually kind of listening to and reading the lyrics. For the most part, when it comes to, unless it's like a song that's like the lyrics are very much the focus and they're very well enunciated and you can hear what they are very clearly. But for the most part, it's like, does it sound good? Does it feel good to listen to? Like, just kind of sonically. And there were times there will be times when I'll listen to a song for like the 20th or 25th time, and only then will I like kind of realize, oh, this song is about whatever, you know, like I'll like for the first time stop just like vibing to it and also actually like sit down and kind of think about, oh, these lyrics are, I guess I never realized that this was about a breakup or about whatever.
See, I'm the same way, but Sarah is like the exact opposite. She was an English major in college. Like, she listens
she's a writer.
She's a writer. She's an English major. Like, she is lyrics first all the way. Like, her favorite musician right now is Hozier, and she like Hozier's very like poetic in his lyrics. But I, for the longest time, couldn't stand Hozier. But just because like I don't like his voice, and I don't like like a lot of like the choices with instrumentation, and maybe I just don't like the genre of that. But like, he's Sarah's favorite musician, so we listen to a lot of Hozier in our house. And so I've grown to appreciate the musicality of Hozier, and Sarah will every once in a while be like, "Did you listen to this lyrics?" I'm like, "No, I didn't listen to that." Like, well, tell me what it was. And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." But like, I never hardly ever listen to like the lyrics of music.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just like, I mean, I can definitely sympathize with like, in order for me to enjoy music, the first and foremost, it has to like sound good to me. I have to like the voice, and I have to like the instrumentation, and it has to feel good, basically, or feel, compelling. Yeah, and
the vibes can't be off.
Yes, music is definitely more about vibes for me. Than it is about lyrics, which like, because I'm also a writer to an extent, and I definitely appreciate.
I'll say to an extent, you are a writer.
I just mean that, like, anyway, I feel like I want to, like, I should appreciate lyrics more, and I should listen to lyrics more, because it's such like it's like a whole dimension to the music that I'm not necessarily getting all the time. But I also just like, I don't know, I don't want music to necessarily become a chore, because music is such it's about making me feel good or helping me to feel whatever emotions I need to feel in the moment.
Absolutely. I agree.
And usually it's the way that it sounds matters more to me than the words themselves, or at least than the content and or the meaning of the words. So I totally get that.
And I don't know if like where that kind of comes from me, if it's just like that's just how my brain's wired, or because like you and I were both in marching band in high school, and like that's how, like, when I was like learning to appreciate music and like listen to music on my own, was at the same time I was like learning how to play an instrument at the same time. Like I was like learning how to play clarinet, learning how to play saxophone, learning how to play bass clarinet, and like learning like those, like learning how to like listen to like one like musical line in a song, like listen to the bass line, or like the melody, or like the counter melody, or like the harmony line, or whatever. Like I was learning to listen to that while like playing my instrument, and that's kind of like where my brain was at when I was learning how to listen to music. And so like subsequently, like whenever I like listen to like the music I find myself most attracted to listen to is like really like bass line heavy, because I was a bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet player. And like I like learned how to like I like lived in the bass line for like 4 years. And so I was like, oh yeah, and then like also like whenever I was in choir, I was more of the baritone, like not quite bass, like kind of thing. So like I still to an extent lived like in the harmony and bass line realm. And so like whenever I listen to music, like that's kind of like where my brain first goes. And it kind of helps that like the bands that I was introduced to young, like Rush has like one of the best bass players of all time with Geddy Lee. Whose birthday was like 2 days ago or something.
Happy birthday, Geddy.
But also like it kind of explains why I like the Beatles so much, because Paul McCartney is one of the best bass players of all time. Just very catchy bass lines, very bouncy, fun. But then also like why I like Wolfpack a lot, because Joe Dart is one of the best bass players of all time.
Man, Wolfpack,
yeah,
so good.
He's like the best like bass player like who's like actively like playing and recording music today. But I think it also is like why I love the music of Star Wars so much, because of the idea of like the leitmotifs that John Williams wrote into the music of Star Wars. Like you can like, if you know what to listen for and like what melodies and what like little motifs in the music, you can know like whenever like you just listen to the score and you can watch the scene in your head. Like if you've seen the movie enough and you know like what like each like little motif is, like it's especially easy to follow along like with A New Hope. I think is like the easiest one to follow along with. Like there's a scene in A New Hope where they're on the Millennium Falcon. They're like, I think they're approaching the Death Star and they're like getting chased by a bunch of TIE fighters. And like you can like every time a different character comes on, that character's little like motif is played in the music, and you're like, oh yeah, I can remember like, oh, this is when Luke comes on, this is when Leia, this is when Han, this is like when the TIE fighters like swoop in, and like, you know, like it's like you can like you can follow along with the scene because of the music, you know.
It's very like Peter and the Wolf, you know. Like
I'm not familiar.
Do you
no?
Okay, so yeah, there's I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the composer, but there's a like an orchestral like suite, I guess, of that tells the story of Peter and the Wolf, and it's like kind of an opera or something. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but basically, I remember that being the thing that they used in like music class in elementary and middle school to kind of teach us about like the idea of like leitmotif and of like, because there's it's a very clear like, this instrument represents this character and this instrument represents this character, and if you listen to the music, you can hear the story basically.
I like that. Cool.
So that's kind of that, and of course Wagner's kind of the founder of leitmotif.
Yes,
essentially. And John Williams is very openly, very clearly like inspired by Wagner. His style. Yeah. Like I think that there are certain like bits of like the of like Wagner that you can like compare to John Williams stuff, and it's like, oh, you kind of just like lifted that, like not in a bad way, but like you know, your inspiration is very clear, kind of, you know.
Yes. And we love him for it.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking of which, I have a bit of like trivia that I like about leitmotifs in Star Wars.
Yes.
So of course, plenty of leitmotifs and things in Star Wars, but in recent years, with there are a couple of like new themes or leitmotifs that take inspiration from older ones. So like, in Rogue One, there is, but basically the main theme for Rogue One, it's the one that plays at the very beginning when the Rogue One logo comes on screen, and it's also, you know, played throughout the score. It might be like Jyn Erso's theme or something. I'm not sure, but or it just might be the theme of Rogue One. But it is the same notes as the main Star Wars theme, but just rearranged.
Ooh.
It's just in a different order, but it's all this. It's like the same set of notes, which is pretty cool. And then John Williams did a similar thing with the theme for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was going to say,
like the theme for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus it's the Force theme, but rearranged. Basically, it's all the same notes as the Force theme, which is neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. I do really like the Obi-Wan theme. It's really good.
Yes, agreed. I like that a lot. Yeah. I made a playlist fairly recently of like just Star Wars, because I've obviously I have Star Wars music playlists on Spotify that I've put together, but recently I was like, I want a playlist that's just like kind of softer, more beautiful stuff from Star Wars, and none of the kind of the big action music, and just, you know, kind of the more like sit and feel and soak in the feels and the motifs and stuff. So I and that the Obi-Wan theme is on there. It's great.
I bet anyway. I bet Ahsoka's theme is on there as well, or
there's some stuff from Clone Wars. I don't know what I don't know what Ahsoka's theme is. Like, does Ahsoka have a music theme?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, she does.
I would have to like.
I'm not going to sing it for you, but yeah.
How dare you not dance for me, monkey?
Yeah. Yeah. No, she does.
We'll have to look into that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Ahsoka's theme, Leia's theme, the Force theme, Obi-Wan Kenobi's theme. Those are kind of like the
love theme from Attack of the Clones.
The love theme from Attack of the Clones.
Across the Stars, yeah.
Yep.
And now I got to look up what Ahsoka's theme is and listen to it, so that once the Ahsoka series comes out, I can see if it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we took a recording break there for a little bit because Sam had to go do something, parenting wise.
Yeah.
And while he was gone, I listened to. I went on YouTube and found a video that was like a compilation of a bunch of times Ahsoka's theme is used. And so, first of all, I recognize it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Ahsoka's theme.
See,
I know
it's
that.
one of those things that you would recognize it from it, but like you wouldn't necessarily like be able to like point it out in the moment, you know.
Yeah, but now that I've seen it back to back a bunch of times, I'm like, okay, it's in my head, and now I'll be able to point it out. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'll be able to see it. But yeah, great theme. And it also played one of the scenes they played was one of my favorite Star Wars music tracks and one of my favorite Star Wars moments. It's the finale of season 5. Ahsoka leaves. Is the name of the track, but it's the moment where Ahsoka walks away from the Jedi Order, and it's one of the like that scene and that piece of music. It gives me full body goosebumps every time. Still, like I love that. Like that's probably my favorite arc of the Clone Wars, other than like
season 7.
You know, the Siege of Mandalore. Yeah. And it's just, so good. It makes me so emotional, and it's very good. And I love it, and I'm also just like seeing some of these clips. I'm getting excited for the places we're gonna end up going eventually once we get further into the series, because man, there are some great arcs.
Sure, dude, I'm really excited because I've only ever watched Clone Wars through once, and it was just the essential arcs. Not like there are definitely some episodes here that I haven't seen either. Like I've seen most of them, I think, but like because I also starting out I did just the essential arcs, and like followed that guide that I sent you, I think. Yeah. And then I watched Rebels, and then I went back and like watched some of the Clone Wars episodes that I missed that people were saying, oh, I love this episode or that episode. I'm like, oh, I don't think I ever watched that one. So I went back and watched some of them. But this is the first time I'm going through and properly watching every single episode. So yeah. There are definitely some new ones here. Yeah, because I think Sarah was pregnant the first time I watched through Clone Wars, and so I have not had time to rewatch Clone Wars. I rewatched Rebels.
Rebels is easier though because it's less episodic.
And it's a lot easier to just watch, like just binge. It's much more bingeable than Clone Wars. Yeah,
because Clone Wars is so like episodic.
Yeah, it's very like Clone Wars is very Adventure of the Week, whereas
it's anthology rather than
Rebels is like it follows the same cast of characters for every single episode, just about. Yeah.
So I also can't wait for Rebels. Man, there's just so many. There's so many things ahead that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get to that one. But I am enjoying the process, but I'm still like, man, I can't wait for us to get to such and such episode or such and such movie, and like, man. There's just so much in between now and then, but luckily, most of it's really good.
Oh yeah.
So.
And this was a good arc that we watched today. I did not expect it to be a great arc, just because like it started off Jar Jar centric, but like it was really good. You want to jump in?
Agreed. Yes, let's jump into our main segment. Again, this week we're talking about The Clone Wars Season 1, Episodes 8 through 10, Bombad Jedi, Cloak of Darkness, and Lair of Grievous, also known not officially, but like colloquially known as the Nute Gunray arc.
Yes,
it's about Nute Gunray.
It's about Nute Gunray. Yeah. Is that illegal?
Right, you want to give us the moral and the summary?
I do.
No, the moral and the Admiral Yularen thing, and then the summary.
The moral,
that's how we do it.
The moral and the impenetrable defense. Yeah. Indeed. I was thinking if we ever had made merch for our podcast, which I don't know, I doubt we ever would. But an impenetrable...
We should just for fun one time.
We should. Yeah. An impenetrable defense would be
Yeah,
would make a great T-shirt. Quote.
Yes, just like in the the Star Wars crawl font, it just says "An impenetrable defense."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know if you buy one of those shirts, y'all. Because if you would, hey,
we could set up they're just print on demand stores,
like a Teespring or something, or
yeah. Like we wouldn't have to do anything to to pay to set it up. The shirts would probably be kind of expensive, but why not, right? That'd be fun.
It'd be a blast. All right. Let's do it.
You know what would be another good shirt?
What?
Is just something in the in the moral font, but it would be in chronological order or something. It's just something that we say a lot. Just in that font.
Yes.
And it'd be like, wow, that is an incredibly niche t-shirt. You are one of maybe a dozen people that listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Have you looked at our listener count lately? We're just
I can look at it real quick right now.
Has our audience grown? Because I remember I asked you after 4 episodes, hey, are people listening to this? And you're like, yeah, 6. And I was like, oh, cool. And I haven't asked since. So I don't know.
Well, so overview. We have a total of 321 plays over our whole podcast, so that's cool.
Probably,
and then
5% of those are us, though.
Probably. And then as for audience size, which Spotify says is the number of distinct devices that have streamed any episode for at least 60 seconds or downloaded an episode in the last 7 days, 20 people. So bigger, yeah. 20.
Although it is, but 2 of those are me. Right, one's my phone, one's my laptop.
Yeah, and one's my desktop and one's my phone. Yeah,
so 16. But I'm going with 16.
Yeah.
Over a dozen.
Yes, our most recent episode that has been published, which as of recording is episode 13, The Sage Wisdom of Minnesota. Which that's great. Naming these episodes is fun. Has 5 plays, so that's where we are right now. I can also look at our analytics for our episodes and see which ones are most listened to. Hold on, let me look. This is a quick little behind the scenes. Limited content, our stats, the state of the podcast.
Yeah. The state of our podcast is strong.
Yes, we have 22 followers on Spotify, and we get on average 15 plays per episode.
Nice.
See,
and that's including the one with only 5. So, and that only came out yesterday.
That's true. 97% of our listeners are in the United States. 2% are in the United Kingdom, apparently. And then less than 1% in Finland and less than 1% in Canada.
Finland's still going strong.
Yeah, Finland listener, where you at?
Hello,
probably Finland.
Single Finland listener. How you doing?
Yes.
Leave us a voicemail, or I don't know how else they get a hold of us if that's not a way of. Because you're in Europe.
International calling.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
All right. And in terms of episode rankings, our most listened to episode is episode 1, still because it's the start of our podcast.
Yes.
With 55 plays.
Ooh.
Currently. Followed by episode 6, Outsourcing the Bugs, which is the one about Attack of the Clones, with 39 listens, and also Now This Is Podcasting, which is the one about 10 Minutes, which also has 39 plays. So
nice.
Those are our top 3.
It's kind of what I expect. Pilot, and then
the ones with the movies.
Yeah,
and that had guests on them. I feel like once we put out our family episode, our live episode, I feel like that'll be, because we'll put that in places and be like, hey, this is a fun one. This is an exciting event for us.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get a boost from that.
Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, not that as always, this is an excuse for us to hang out more and not
right.
It's not for the numbers, but it's still cool to be like, oh, people are listening and having fun with this.
Although also with these numbers, half of these numbers are probably Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
What's up?
Oh, Jason. We love you, Jason. Anyway, Jack. Big news is for the chronology of Clone Wars episodes. We've made a milestone,
which is
we're now in 21 BBY.
New year?
21 BBY.
Goodbye, 22 BBY.
Well, we had 22 BBY for one episode, and then I guess the Galactic New Year kind of spans this.
It's December.
Yeah, it's just. All right, so our first episode of this 3-episode arc, the Nute Gunray arc, is Bombad Jedi, which when I saw the title of this episode, I was like, oh, this is going to be a bad one. That's immediately what I thought.
Honestly, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was much more fun than I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely. I would feel that like the least exciting of the three, like the one that I came away from feeling the least like. Well, I mean, but they were all good. Is the point?
Sure.
And so I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
Let's get going.
Here we go. Bombad Jedi. So, moral: heroes are made by the times.
Indeed.
The Clone War threatens the unity of the Republic. As battles rage across the galaxy, more worlds succumb to the seductive lure of the Separatists and leave the Republic. On a vital mission of peace, Senator Padme Amidala journeys to the outer rim world of Rhodia, desperate to ensure its loyalty remains to the Republic.
Yeah, this is, I think, our first visit to Rhodia.
I think so.
Canon.
I believe it is.
Yeah, and the Rhodians are the species that Greedo is in the original Star Wars. So that's where this species is from.
Yep, the one who shot first. Greedo.
The one who said McClunky.
McClunky.
Famously
said McClunky.
Everybody's favorite line from Star Wars.
Yep. All right, so here we go. So Padme Amidala travels to Rhodia in an attempt to persuade Senator Anaconda Farr, whom she fondly addresses as Uncle Anno, since the time when he helped out her father to keep his allegiance to the Galactic Republic. She brings along C-3PO and Jar Jar Binks, despite Supreme Chancellor Palpatine's advice to rather take along a bodyguard force. But upon arrival, she learns that Anaconda has already pledged allegiance to the Separatists, and Viceroy Nute Gunray is delivering supplies as the Republic could not. Already there are battle droids in his city, and the droids shackle Padme's arms to the wall as Gunray ordered as a precaution before he personally comes for her. So the start of this episode, I don't know, I like it was kind of like we meet this Rhodian, who I guess is like an old family friend of Padme's, and then within 30 seconds of meeting him, he's like, by the way, I joined the bad guys team.
Yeah, it is very like yeah, of course I'm here to help you, we're old friends. And he's like, actually, about that.
Yeah, actually, you're under arrest because I offered you as collateral for getting like humanitarian aid.
Family means nothing, but also I kind of get it, obviously, because it's like his planet is starving, they need food, and the Republic wasn't helping them, and they were like, you know what, we can't really turn this down, which understandable. That would be a perspective he'd come from. It's not easy being a leader of a bunch of green people who need food.
Yeah, it's not easy being green.
That's what they say.
That is what they say.
Time to spend each day the color of the leaves.
Yep. Anyway, Jar Jar and 3PO get into even more trouble when the droids arrest them. Though Jar Jar's awkwardness with the magnetic crane destroys the droids, he also destroys their ship, ruining their chance to contact help. He puts on
we gotta stop here for a second, because like, again, this is one of those cases of Wikipedia just very quickly glancing over a scene that like plot wise they got across everything they needed to get across, but like this sequence is just it's a great Jar Jar accidentally being competent but then also being very incompetent.
Yeah,
he on the one hand he just by tripping over things, as he is wont to do, accidentally destroys all the droids that are attacking them. But then also he drops the crane on their ship, and it's just completely crushed, comedically immediately.
Yeah, like soda can. It's bad.
Yeah, it's like, well, there it goes, I guess.
Yep.
Oops. Yeah, which I feel like is, again, it's like Jar Jar at his best is when he's doing the sort of physical comedy where he is accidentally competent. He accidentally does something cool, which has been his MO from the beginning, because like in the Phantom Menace there's the whole scene with him on the battlefield and him accidentally destroying a bunch of droids.
Yeah, like his foot gets tangled up in in half of a battle droid, and he kicks to shoot. Yeah.
Pew, pew, and he takes down a whole like 6 droids just by trying to get it off his foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very like drunken master style. Like
it is. Yeah. Yeah. Jar Jar is just he's just a stooge. It's just a lot of slapstick kind of stuff. Anyway. All right, where
he puts on a Jedi robe.
Yep, he puts on a Jedi robe that Padme had stored in the back closet, most likely belonging to Anakin Skywalker. Oops, Anakin forgot his jacket. Uh-oh. But droids spot them, and everyone presumes he's a Jedi, which
I like the idea that Anakin left his Letterman jacket behind in in her apartment.
Yeah, and then everyone assumes quarterback's here.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so Jar Jar managed to hold on. Nope, wait, where am I? Yep.
Everyone presumes he's a Jedi.
Everyone presumes he's a Jedi. But droids spot them, and everyone presumes he's a Jedi. Jar Jar manages to escape to the water below, where he promptly has to run from a marine monster, while 3PO is taken off to be scrapped. Word of a Jedi around gives Padme an idea. While she bluffs the droids into thinking the Jedi has rescued her already, she slips out of her shackles using a key from her boot. Roundhouse kicks the droid, steals its blaster, and escapes.
There's so many badass Padme moments this episode.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this episode just, it's like all of like the highlights of like, it's like Padme's highlight reel from episode 2, but just like again, like it's she like runs a lot of the similar plays, but like it doesn't get old, you know.
Yeah. She manages to break herself, like basically pick the locks on her cuffs and break out of that, then trick the droids into opening the door, then takes out the droids single-handedly, and then runs, and later on like finds Jar Jar in a hallway, you know, being chased by some droids. And she does this thing where like she doesn't need to be this cool, but she decides to like jump and run on the wall, jump off the wall, and then shoot 2 droids instead of just shooting the droids. It's like, you know what? I admire the style points for that, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's good. So then Padme rescues 3PO, but is dismayed to learn that Jar Jar is the presumed Jedi. She tells 3PO to find a communication station and call for help. Meanwhile, Gunray has arrived in his shuttle and tells Anaconda that the supplies will be delivered after Padme is executed. Anaconda tries to protest, but Gunray insists, declaring that Rhodia is under his protection now. Anaconda then realizes that he has made a bad mistake, siding with the Separatists. Jar Jar goes to rescue Padme, only to be spotted and shot at. He again dives into the water as droids throw down thermal detonators and fire a rocket at him. While swimming away, he runs into the boogie monster he met previously, which I like that Wikipedia calls it the boogie monster. It's basically just one of the fish out of Phantom Menace.
It's a big fish.
Yeah, but it's always a bigger fish, which swallows him up as the rockets are about to explode. Thankfully, the beast saves him, thanks to its thick hide, and Jar Jar declares that it is his friend.
Yeah, he pets it, and it like makes a kind of like a purring noise.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. I like this monster now.
I do too. Yeah. All right. 3PO manages to send out a message before being captured. Gunray has a trio of droidicas lined up to execute Padme and 3PO when Jar Jar and the boogie monster burst up from the swamp. In the ensuing chaos, Gunray tries to get away, but his shuttle is pushed into the swamp by the monster, and Padme holds him at gunpoint. Anaconda appears behind Padme, his own blaster at the ready, and Gunray orders the Rhodian to shoot the Jedi, and then her. However, upon seeing Anaconda's expression, Padme covers for Anaconda, encouraging him to tell Gunray about their little secret. That Anaconda had planned to trap Gunray all along. Anaconda, picking up on Padme's invitation, agrees that he is with the Republic and places Gunray under arrest. A Republic cruiser arrives with reinforcements to take Gunray away, while Anaconda thanks Jar Jar, whom he calls Master Bombad, for his assistance. But Jar Jar states he's just a Gungan. Palpatine, via hall projector, promises supplies to Rhodia. Anaconda asks Padme if she can ever forgive him, but she replies that it is the Republic who should ask him for forgiveness. Far too often they forget that their most important allies are not always the most powerful.
Yay! End of part 1.
End of part 1.
Okay. So there are a couple things I want to talk about on this.
Yes.
First of all, the whole premise of like Jar Jar being like a Jedi, or like, you know, people thinking that Jar Jar's Jedi is funny, and then like for the most part there are no moments where like I was expecting them to be like, for Jar Jar to kind of be accidentally stumbling his way into doing cool stuff, and like, which he does at the beginning of the episode, but once he's a Jedi, it's mostly just him like running away in the hood.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But then there is obviously the one moment near the end where he comes back with the fish monster, and it just like comes out and destroys Gunray's ship and like the other battle droids, like the droidicas and stuff. And it's like, okay, that was cool.
I love that, and I got like Ezra Bridger vibes, like Ezra with like random giant animals that he just like kind of befriends with the Force. And I was like, well, so like it kind of lends credence to the Jar Jar being Force sensitive, Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah, he's just his style is like drunken master style is what it is. It's like he's Force sensitive. It just doesn't look as graceful as most other people. Right.
Also, I don't know if he realizes he's Force sensitive.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I also like the fact that there's a like the moment when they're holding Nute Gunray at Gunray point. When Padme and the Rodian guy are both there, and basically Padme gives the Rodian an opening to be like, no, you were on my side the whole time. Like basically gives him an out, and like I like the fact that she kind of, even after like he sold her out, like she still gives him the benefit of the doubt and is like is the better person and gives him a second chance, because obviously she understands to an extent that like he was doing this in order to save his people. Yeah, it was an act of desperation, not like of actual like intentional malice.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't see that scene that way. I thought, like maybe like they generally did have a plan behind the scenes, because like I don't know like that, because Clone Wars in my experience is not always that subtle. It's usually a little more on the nose than, I don't know. That's just kind of my assumption is that Clone Wars is on the nose unless it's really obviously trying to be subtle. Unless the subtlety is on the nose, I assume the rest of it's on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are moments where like, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I also think in this rewatch I'm noticing more things where like there are sort of subtler character moments that aren't like aren't quite so in your face, like there's that one episode with the kind of the rogue clone, and there's a scene, they're trying to figure out which clone is the traitor. And I think it was Rex and Cody were like in a room, and they were like pretending to to think that he was in a different place. There's a whole conversation where like they're having a conversation, but it's all like a ruse. And I remember like you saying like, oh, I didn't realize that the first time I watched this that's what was going on. So like anyway, like your interpretation could also totally be correct. I just felt like in the moment, like based on the information we had in the episode, like that's probably
I like your interpretation better. This is just not what I saw when I watched it.
Sure. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah. This is a fun episode. One other thing I wanted to point out, a couple things. One is this episode did have Ahmed Best as Jar Jar. Nice. So that is actually him. And this is the only episode of season 1 to have Ahmed Best as Jar Jar.
Really?
Yes, he was all. We have heard Ahmed Best already in the Clone Wars because of the chronological thing, like because he's in Supply Lines in season 3, which is an episode we've already watched. That was also Ahmed Best, but in other season 1 episodes with Jar Jar, it's BJ Hughes as the voice.
I see.
Other thing I wanted to mention is I don't know if you noticed, but during the scene when Padme is in her jail cell and there are a bunch of like battle droids outside talking about things, one of the droids says, "All right, cut the chatter." That's where that voice. I did notice that.
I did. I watched all these episodes at once, and like I remember hearing that, and I couldn't remember which like of the 3 episodes that was from.
Yeah. It was at that moment that I was like, oh, I should take notes for these episodes because there's a bunch of them, and I should, Yeah. But I was like, I wanted to remember that specifically. So yeah, we got our "all right, cut the chatter" line. This is where it's from.
Hey,
yay!
He said the thing.
Also, there was a moment where like I think it was in this episode. It was either this episode or the next one where there's just a bunch of like battle droids being given orders, and there's just like 8 of them that all say Roger, Roger, one
That
after
was
the
funny.
other. It was like Roger, 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 Roger.
Yep.
It was like,
That was silly.
I don't know. That was just funny.
It was very funny. Yeah, it was this episode. Yeah, because they were all. It was when they like went off to go look for the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yep. Anyway, good episode.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Let's go. Next episode, Cloak of Darkness.
The moral: ignore your instincts at your peril.
Da, da, da. Do you want me to do the?
Sure. I was
the
about
one?
to dive in, but go for it.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 of them this time, so we'll alternate.
Sure,
I'll do one.
Great.
Yeah. Episode 9, Cloak of Darkness. Viceroy Gunray captured. Senator Padme Amidala has scored a victory against the Separatist Alliance on the remote world of Rhodia, securing the arrest of the diabolical Confederate leader Nute Gunray. The Jedi Council has dispatched Master Luminara Unduli and Anakin Skywalker's Padawan Ahsoka to escort the Viceroy to Coruscant under heavy guard. Once there, he will face trial for his many war crimes. There you are.
There it is. There it is. All right. So, Viceroy Gunray has been transferred to the Tranquility under Jedi Master Luminara Unduli. This is the first time we meet her, right?
I believe, yeah, this is the first, at least the first canon time in the Clone Wars we've seen her.
Yes.
I think she probably was, like, not as a speaking role, but, like, was in the background in Attack of the Clones or something.
Probably.
I would think.
Yeah. All right. Where Gunray has been carefully taken to Coruscant to face trial for war crimes. Ahsoka Tano and a number of Senate commandos under Captain Pharaoh Argaius, that feels right.
I think they say Argaius.
Captain Pharaoh Argaius have also been transferred. Ahsoka does not think that all the extra security is necessary, but Unduli assures her that the Neimoidian is more dangerous than he looks. Unduli suggests that his allies could be conspiring against them. Elsewhere, Darth Sidious informs Count Dooku that Gunray poses a significant danger to them and their plans if he is interrogated. Dooku tells him that he's already put a plan into motion. Dooku is sending his assassin and best agent, Asajj Ventress, despite her previous failures, to either rescue or silence Gunray. I like how everyone that Dooku sends out, is like, this is my best person, and they, like, never win. Yeah. It's like, despite her previous failures, like, that's Asajj Ventress, and then we see in spoilers for the next episode, but, like, we've talked about already, but Grievous, like, is just very bad at his job. Like,
yeah. Although, to be fair, like, in these couple episodes, we do kind of get a little bit of the exception to the rule there, where, like, Ventress does succeed in this.
Yeah.
And Grievous at least partially succeeds.
He does.
Because he kills a Jedi.
Oh, yeah. Spoilers.
Anyway. Spoilers for 10 minutes from now when we get to
later on in the podcast, this episode. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Sidious has doubts, but allows him to proceed. Once Sidious is gone, Dooku impresses on Ventress the fact that failure is not an option. Ventress tells him that she will prove that she can take down the Jedi. Back on the Tranquility, Unduli and Ahsoka interrogate the Viceroy. When they get nowhere and the Viceroy refuses to answer their questions, Ahsoka threatens him, only to be chastised by Unduli. Nonetheless, the threats coerce Gunray to start talking. Unfortunately for the two Jedi, a swarm of Vulture droids escorting 3 Separatist boarding ships attack the Tranquility. Super battle droids assault the cruiser and easily kill almost all of the first wave of clones. After the shooting stopped, Ventress enters the hangar. She saw one clone who was still alive struggling to right himself. The clones spot her, and Ventress ignites her lightsaber and charge at him. The trooper fires a few shots off, but Ventress easily deflects them. Before the trooper could relay a message, Ventress decapitates the clone in a single stroke and stole his communications equipment off his headless body so she could listen in on the clone's movements. This was like
savage.
Scary.
Yeah, it was brutal.
It was brutal. Like there's sometimes where like it's just kind of like the combat kind of seems a little like robotic and stilted, but like this felt like she felt like an assassin watching this.
Yes, and her, and also just this whole assault with like, you know, there are like droid attack ships coming in, and then the like the boarding ships come in and attach themselves, and then they're just dropping like a whole like legion of super battle droids.
Yeah.
And they're just advancing, and the clones are kind of getting slowly mowed down by this, and then after all of the super battle droids are in, then Ventress comes out, and she's a force to be reckoned with. In this episode, definitely.
I definitely noticed is this episode where I think the quality of the choreography for the fight scenes like is up like 3 notches. From like
there's some great fights in these episodes. Yeah,
some great lightsaber duels in this episode and in the next one.
Yes,
like some of the best we've seen outside of the movies so far, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, all right, moving on. Where was I? Oh gosh, got it. So Commander Gree, a squad of Green Company and Unduli,
which is funny to me.
Gree and the Green Company.
The commander of Green Company is Commander Gree.
Yep. They go off to deal with the droids, leaving Ahsoka to guard Gunray. Ventress infiltrates the engine room and plants a number of thermal charges on the cruiser's generators before going to the brig. This scene was kind of silly, where she was just kind of jumping like from like shadow to shadow, and there was like this one little droid, like it looked kind of like like it looked like Wally or like Rob from like Smash Bros. It's just kind of like
it's kind of like he's just like a stick with like binoculars for eyes and like tiny little arms, and he's on like treads.
Yeah, and she was just like jumping, and like you could hear like jump, and then like, click at a beep, and then jump and a click and a beep, and jump and a click and a beep, and like it was just kind of like looking around and like where is that sound coming from, but like never like found where the sound was.
Yeah, she's a ninja.
She's a ninja, but yeah,
she's a witch ninja.
She's a witch ninja.
I love that you pointed that out, because if you weren't going to, I was gonna, because as you know, I love a fun little droid guy.
Yep.
I love silly little droids.
Yeah,
he's just a little guy. 327T is his name, they say in the episode.
327T.
So
love it.
Yeah, MVP of the episode, 327T.
Yes. All right.
By the way, I was looking at I've got Wikipedia pulled up, and so I looked at Commander Gree to see like where else he shows up, and he does come back later in the Clone Wars. But it turns out, so in Revenge of the Sith, when Order 66 happens and Yoda is on Kashyyyk and he like beheads 3 clones at once,
is one of them Gree?
When one of them is Commander Gree.
Oh no!
So, poor guy.
Oops.
Oh, just like savage.
Yeah.
So sorry, Gree.
Oops.
You seemed like a cool guy, but
he did.
Yeah. Anyway,
so Ventress does her thing. Asajj Ventress does her thing, and then the super battle droids are destroyed, leaving Ventress the last enemy on board. She duels Ahsoka for a short while before, ironically, locking her in Gunray's cell. Luckily, Unduli's timely arrival prevents Ventress from rescuing Gunray. Unfortunately, the assassin detonates the charges, rocking the ship before fleeing down the elevator shaft. Unduli goes after Ventress, confident that she can defeat the assassin, leaving Ahsoka again in spite of the Padawan's insistence that Ventress is too dangerous for any one Jedi to combat. Argaius advises Ahsoka to do what she thinks is right, and Gree tells her she should just follow orders. Gunray simply states, "All I know is I never risk my own skin if I don't have to," which to Ahsoka, Gree and Argaius all glare at him. Ahsoka,
I love that moment.
Ahsoka goes to help Unduli. In the generator room, Ventress and Unduli duel. Unduli is swiftly outmatched by Ventress, outraged because Unduli is taunting her fighting style as sloppy, amateurish, and unrefined imitation of Dooku's. Overpowers Unduli and traps her under a number of collapsed pipes. Ahsoka makes a timely save, only for Ventress to escape again. She then presses a button that activates the signal. Back in the brig, Argaius receives the signal and betrays his fellow commandos and frees Gunray, revealing that he was bribed by Dooku to help rescue the Viceroy. Commander Gree manages to overpower him after a brief fight. Gree asks Argaius why he's doing this. Argaius tells him, "A clone like you wouldn't understand, but I wanted a life filled with more than empty servitude." A disgusted Gree snarls, "And for that, you betray the Republic." Argaius states, "It's like I told the Padawan, sometimes being a good soldier means doing what you think is right," and dives for his blaster. Gree intercepts him and knocks him out. Gree snarls, "You and I disagree on what makes a good soldier," and prepares to kill the turncoat. However, he fails to account for Nute Gunray. The Neimoidian picks up a blaster and struck the clone on the back of the head. The blow instantly knocks Gree unconscious. They make their escape on the Doctor Republic ship in the lower hangar, joined by Ventress, who uses an escape pod. Argaius gloats that he will take most of the glory in his report to Count Dooku, but Ventress impales him, killing the turncoat. Later, Unduli and Ahsoka report to Yoda and Anakin Skywalker about the loss. They are told that they may be able to track the stolen ship. Ahsoka leaves to join Skywalker with Kit Fisto's fleet, but not before receiving an apology from Unduli for not having listened to her monition about Ventress.
All right. Well, I feel like the main thing I want to talk about in this episode is just like how cool the fight was between Ahsoka and Luminara Unduli and Ventress.
Oh yeah,
like that whole sequence was it was a really cool lightsaber fight, or a sequence of fights. Because first we get Ahsoka versus Ventress, then we get Unduli versus Ventress, and then we get all three of them.
Yeah,
and it's super cool and well choreographed and fun, and they all get cool moments. And I also want to take a moment to recognize how cool Luminara Unduli is. It's like she's like, you know, she's a wise Jedi, and she's wise enough to, by the end of the episode, kind of recognize that, like, oh, she's able to learn something from Ahsoka, which I think is a sign of humility when any like leader is able to like acknowledge, like, oh no, I can learn something from my students too, you know. That's cool. No, but also there's just like some cool moments with her, like just doing cool stuff, like she's obviously very skilled with a lightsaber, but there's also a moment where she jumps down an elevator shaft. Like, so there's Ventress jumps down this shaft and uses her two lightsabers to like slide down the side of it, and that's how she gets down. But then Luminara Unduli just like she jumps down and then kind of very gracefully rolls out the
that was
the next
cool.
level below, and it's like I was like, oh, she's so cool, amazing. Anyway,
yes.
Luminara Unduli, cool Jedi, cool character. Glad we have her.
Very cool.
Yeah, we also get a lot of kind of like spunky, like impatient Ahsoka in this episode.
Yeah,
there were a bunch of moments when I was like, "Come on," like I wanted to be like, "All right, maybe you're a little in over your head here," but also she does end up like, you know, her instincts end up serving her well in the end because she ends up being able to save Luminara,
right?
You know, so
right. Yeah, no, like it definitely, like when that scene where like, she like basically whips out her lightsaber to threaten Nute Gunray while they're interrogating him. I was definitely reminded, like, oh yeah, this is Anakin's Padawan. Like this,
yes, exactly.
This makes sense.
Yeah, I learned it from you, Dad.
I learned it from you.
Yeah, but yeah, I also like the kind of all the different things that were happening at once. This was a very kind of well paced and choreographed episode in terms of like all the different things that were happening. So there's like, you know, Ventress going around on the ship and then fighting with Luminara and Ahsoka, and then like during that fight, meanwhile, there's what's his name, the turncoat guy,
oh gosh,
Argaius.
Yeah,
I was looking for it in the summary. Yeah, where like Argaius like betrays them, and like it's Argaius versus Gree, kind of like, you know, they're facing off and having that intense conversation. Well, meanwhile, we've got a cool lightsaber battle going on, and there's all this stuff happening at once. I like the fact that it felt like it had a good amount of momentum, and there was a lot of cool moments. There was, you know, a twist and a betrayal, and there was, you know, there was never a moment where it was like, where you were necessarily sure how it was going to turn out, like which way it was.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like clearly like, oh, they messed up and New Gunray's definitely going to get away, or, you know, like because like there's the moment when Ahsoka gets trapped in that cell, and you think for a moment like, oh man, Ahsoka messed up, and now New Gunray's going to get away, and that's going to be the end of it. But then Luminara shows up and immediately breaks her out, and so it's like, you know, it's always like there's always a back and forth going on, and you know, which I like the fact that they kind of kept us on our toes with this episode.
Yep, I did too. All right, you ready to move on to my favorite episode of this arc?
Yes, I'm very excited for this next episode.
Yeah, this is was this
at
your
the
favorite?
End when they're like, I think of these three, I think the third episode is my favorite. Yeah. At the end of this episode when they're like, Kit Fisto's fleet, I'm like, oh, Kit Fisto!
I know.
Yes!
Yeah.
So excited.
Kit Fisto might just be the MVP just because he's here. Yeah.
Kit Fisto is. I think we've talked about this before, but like, or we might have. But Kit Fisto
I think
is just like
we did during episode 2.
Right. Kit Fisto is such a like. He's like fun and cool and handsome and all. Like he's just like he's the guy everybody wants to be, and also he's got tentacles on his head,
and he's like vaguely Jamaican. Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Yeah, and he's got a swagger and a charming smile, and he's also a cool Jedi.
Yeah, really good duelist. Yeah, like really fun to watch.
Ooh, yeah, we will talk more about that later on in this episode. But yeah, let's get into it.
All right,
final piece of this arc.
Final episode: Lair of Grievous. The moral: most powerful is he who controls his own power. Viceroy Gunray escapes. En route to Coruscant to stand trial for war crimes, evil separatist leader Nute Gunray has broken free of his Jedi escort. With the help of Count Dooku's sinister agents, the villainous Viceroy has made a daring getaway. Alerted to the bold prison break, Jedi Master Kit Fisto has traced the stolen ship to a remote system, hoping to recapture Gunray and return him to justice. Alright, so, once alerted of Nute Gunray's escape, Jedi Master Kit Fisto, there's our boy, Kit Fisto, and his former apprentice, Nadar Veb.
What an idiot.
What a goon. This is...
Anyway.
Yeah, it's just dumb fish boy. Anyway. So, alright. Alright, so, follow the tracking beacon of his stolen ship to Vasek. Is it Vasek?
Probably.
Yeah, Vasek. Right.
Did they ever say it?
Nope, we're going with Vasek. Alright. The Jedi and their squad of clones find a secret door to the castle, and Fisto finds a way to open it. I like how they say it's a secret door, but it's like this giant, like...
It's just obscured by fog. That's it.
Yeah. It's like, it looks like evil Fortress of Solitude kind of giant. Like
basically, yeah.
Alright, so, they attempt to sneak up on... hold on, wait. Yep, got it. They attempt to sneak up on Viceroy Gunray, but all they find is a gloating hologram of the Neimoidian. It soon turns into a hologram of Dooku, who informs the party that although it can't get Gunray, he will offer an alternative prize. Dooku soon contacts General Grievous and warns him that his ongoing stalemate in the war has become unacceptable and that Darth Sidious wants more dramatic results, including more dead Jedi. Upon discovering that the castle is the lair of Grievous, Fisto devises a plan to ambush Grievous as soon as he arrives. After landing his ship inside the castle, Grievous is confronted by the Jedi and the clones. A skirmish breaks out, and Grievous's legs are chopped off above the knees. As Grievous escapes, he kills 2 more clones before retreating to his control room to undergo repairs from his medic droid EVA-4D and order his Magna Guards to lock down the perimeter. This was just kind of like a, I don't know, like it's fun watching Grievous panic and watching him like freak out and be caught in a corner and just kind of squirm his way out. But also, can we just talk about his medic droid? Like,
yes,
sassy,
I love his
sassy medic droid.
His sassy medic droid who, like, Grievous can't, like, talk back to him because he's, like, he depends on him for repairing him. Yeah, which is great. I love that he's sassy. And also his head is clearly, like, a KitchenAid mixer. Which is great.
It's great.
Yeah. I also want to talk about, before we go any further, like, how cool the setting of this episode is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the castle, the interior of Grievous's lair, his castle, as they call it, is so cool. It's like, it's got this really interesting, weird aesthetic to it. It's like these darkened hallways that are lit with these kind of orb lanterns, and there's this really cool kind of designs on the walls, and just the way that everything is kind of constructed. It looks very different from most of the other aesthetics we see in Star Wars, I feel like.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it still felt Star Wars-y, which was great, but it also felt like really unique and cool looking, which I really appreciated. And then also there's as they're walking through the lair, and they're not aware that it's Grievous's lair at first. They're walking through and they're like looking into rooms on either side of them as they pass by, and there's like these statues of this warrior who's like, you know, killed people, and it's like, you know, kind of action pose moments of like this statue of like this mysterious warrior, and they're like, who is this? And then eventually they come to a room where they find like basically more like Grievous heads kind of his, I don't know if it was like art or if they're actually like replacement faceplates for him or something.
Yeah.
But like they're like, oh, this is Grievous's lair, which means that like those statues were presumably of Grievous before he was all robot-y.
Yeah. And we kind of like learn about like at least a little bit of like why Grievous is the way he is. Like he like
yes.
he actively chose to quote unquote upgrade himself.
Yeah. There's a moment when like the repair droid is like repairing him, and he says something along the lines of like, "Man, I can't believe you went through with these changes or something." And he's like, "They weren't just changes; they were upgrades. I chose this. I'm better now. I'm superior."
Yeah.
You know, he's very insistent about like this made me more powerful. He's very like he's very insistent on that. Which, to be fair, he does have the special ability to repeatedly lose limbs and then just replace them.
Yeah, like it takes like 10 minutes. It's like, all right, we're back.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so medic droid, and then he sends out his Magna Guards to lock down the perimeter. Meanwhile,
yes,
Fisto, Veb, and the remainder of their clone squad try to retreat from the castle, but Grievous locks it down. Phil tells the clones outside and Niner and Bell to contact the fleet at Bestine to bring reinforcements, but unfortunately the Magna Guards blow up the clones' transport to cut off their escape and prevent communications with the fleet. They also
very like bombastically too. It's like it's very bombastic and also very like it just kind of happens. Like they're like, all right, let's go, and they walk casually onto their ship, and then like 200 yards away, the Magna Guards are standing there. One of them takes out a bazooka, and hits the ship, and it just blows up. It's like, well, I guess that's not happening.
Yup. Oops. Yeah. All right.
Which, by the way, the Magna Guards. Now that I think about it, the Magna Guards look like the statues. Kind of.
They do.
Like, they have a similar like look to it, and then like the clothing they wear, the kind of the hood thing.
The hood and just like the broad shoulders and like the kind of like
cylindrical almost head.
Yeah, because they are IG units. We talked about that last episode or a couple episodes ago.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're IG 100s, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, we're keeps switching windows and losing Warhammer into the thing.
No.
Yeah. All right. They also attempt to destroy Fisto's starfighter and his droid R6H5, but Fisto tells the astromech to get out of the area, and R6 manages to pilot the fighter away from danger.
R6. I like R6.
R6. I'm sorry.
We only no. You said it right.
Okay.
I'm just like I'm just saying I like R6. I mean, he's just a regular astromech droid or whatever, but he's Kid Fisto's astromech, and so they seem to get along well, and so he's the best. And also, I like his color scheme. It's very it's like kind of a dull green and red.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just liked his color combo.
It is cool.
Yeah. Other MVP is I'm saying R6.
Yes.
Because I love a little guy.
We do love a little droid guy. All right. So as they explore the fortress, a trapdoor on the floor opens beneath them, and one of the clones is killed in the molten incinerator vat below. Fisto and Veb jump in time to avoid it, and Clone Commander Phil uses a cable to cling to the side of the pit and climb up. After being taunted by a hologram of Grievous, they meet Grievous's pet Rogwart, Gore. That was the big monster thingy, right?
Yeah, it's like a weird like dinosaur-looking thing with like robot arms and a helmet on his back.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's very interesting. So, in a short battle, Fisto kills Gore, though Phil is also killed during the fight, an event that makes Veb vengeful. After Grievous is repaired, he decides to check if Gore has killed the Jedi, only to find that Gore is dead. He is then contacted by Count Dooku. This time, Count confirms to Grievous that this is a test for him, since his defeats by the Jedi has shaken Dooku's faith in the general. He decides to play along, and he and his guards go hunting. Fisto and Veb soon find the entrance to Grievous's control room, but as they try to sneak in, Veb chooses to confront Grievous instead, despite Fisto trying to convince him otherwise. In the midst of the argument, EVA4D locks Fisto away from Veb, and the Mon Calamari Jedi skillfully defeats all four of Grievous's guards. Since Fisto is locked in the control room, unable to help Veb, he finds EVA4D and cuts him in half. Veb then proceeds to attack Grievous, but the general shoots and kills the young Jedi. Fisto calls for R6H5 to meet him at the south landing platform. After
you idiot.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, this whole episode, this kid is like,
shouldn't Veb have known that it was a trap the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
it's a trap. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's a trap. Yeah, he's
a Mon Calamari. He should have known that it was a trap.
Yeah, he should have known. Yeah. Yeah, his whole thing, like Nadar, he's like I mean, there's this heartwarming scene kind of at the beginning when the two of them, when Kit Fisto and Nadar reunite, and because he was taught by Kit Fisto, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's great to see you, and now we're both Jedi Knights, we get to fight alongside each other, and then like immediately Nadar like is like very like vengeful and like, I'm gonna kill everybody. Let's go kill Grievous. I want revenge. Like he's just very like unrestrained and like,
yeah.
All right.
Part of me wonders if this is just kind of like as you were saying this, like I wonder if this is just like what happens to Padawans who were trained during the Clone Wars. You know,
honestly,
I wonder if this is just like
maybe
a product of war, because like Anakin is like that. Ahsoka is like that. I'm sure there are others that are like they're kind of like that, but like a big
Nadar just doesn't have the natural talents to let him
no
like slip by with it.
Yeah, he doesn't have the talent to get away with that. Yeah,
unfortunately. And then he gets shot. He gets shot by one of Grievous's other arms just takes out a blaster and shoots him.
Yeah, it's very like Indiana Jones, kind of like the guy gets out the sword and does a crazy thing and just pulls out a revolver. Yep.
Yeah. Well.
Yep.
Rip. Which, by the way, I would say that's a main character kill. That's Grievous killed a Jedi. That's a thing we can put
is
on
Grievous on the? Is he on the counter?
I don't think he is, but we should put him on because he's a major enough character.
Okay.
Like I've got the Grand Inquisitor on here. Grievous should also be on here.
Oh yeah, if the Grand Inquisitor's on there, then Grievous definitely deserves to be on there.
Yeah. Okay. Let me add
because Grievous is a bigger character than Grand Inquisitor, I would argue.
Yeah, no, definitely. Agreed.
Okay, cool.
He's in the movie. He's actually in the movies.
Yeah. What? Okay. Well, you do that. I'm going to continue. All right. After an intense lightsaber duel with Grievous, Fisto starts to gain the upper hand, but some of Grievous's Magna Guards arrive, which turn the odds against him. As R6H5 arrives with his starfighter, Fisto escapes and returns to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Meanwhile, Dooku contacts Grievous, who tells Dooku how he has beaten the Jedi. Dooku already expected victory over the young Jedi and the clones, but says to best a Jedi Master is a worthy accomplishment. Grievous then clarifies to Dooku that Fisto got away. Dooku, disappointed, tells Grievous that there is room for improvement on his part, angering Grievous.
On his fart.
Back at Coruscant, Kid Fisto reports to Yoda and Mace Windu the events of his mission. He tells them Nadar's heart was in the right place, but he tried to match Grievous's power with his own. Yoda says that in this war, a danger there is of losing who we are. Yeah, so maybe it was kind of like a commentary on like younglings who grew up in the war, and like
yeah,
what
because I feel like probably the younglings were kind of. I would imagine that some of them were kind of rushed out. It's like we need more troops, we need more soldiers, we need more Jedi out in the battlefield.
Yeah,
so
Yeah, so I think this is kind of like because we're getting towards kind of the midpoint of the first season, and they're kind of like trying to like they're definitely establishing kind of like where the trajectory of the series is going to go and kind of like the major themes that are going to be covered in all this, and just like the effects of war on people is a huge theme in the Clone Wars. So
yeah, definitely, and yeah, this is definitely an example of like I like that interpretation. I hadn't thought about that until you brought it up. But yeah, the idea that maybe he's this way because he became a Jedi during a time of war when it's like like in I think it was in Attack of the Clones, Mace Windu says something like we're Jedi are we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers. And yet they immediately are basically conscripted into being soldiers very quickly.
And Mace Windu is the most soldiery of the Jedis.
He's I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna follow orders, and I'm gonna kill people. That's Mace Windu's thing. Yeah. I wanted to talk about some other stuff from this episode. One is just like that Grievous's lair continues to be super cool.
Oh yeah.
There's some cool moments, kind of like we get a little bit during the beginning of like not as much as I kind of expected us to get, but of like Grievous kind of sneaking around in the shadows and being like terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is always super cool. Like whenever we get like Grievous actually being menacing, because a lot of the time he's kind of like a silly, almost comic relief character, but then there are times when he's actually like intimidating and menacing and kind of scary.
Yeah.
And this is one of those where like he's in his environment literally, and he's kind of like crawling around on the ceiling, and he's taking down clone troopers.
Yeah, I liked when
cool.
his legs got cut off, and he just kind of like monkey bars around the.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
There's that whole. We get a little bit of a lightsaber fight between Kit Fisto and Grievous and Nadar altogether. Yeah. And then later on, there's a really cool, like short but really cool sequence with Kit Fisto versus Grievous out on the landing pad while he's like waiting for his ship, and like Kit Fisto is like kind of like sneaking around in the fog, and it's that was really cool. There's some really cool lightsaber choreography and also some cool moments of just Kit Fisto being sneaky and clever.
Did he at one point got a second lightsaber? Was that one of Grievous's lightsabers they stole off a Jedi? Or is that Nadar's lightsaber?
It's both, I think. So basically, Grievous stole Nadar's lightsaber when he killed him, and then during that fight, Kit Fisto got it back from him.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Which I thought was a cool kind of poetic moment. It's like, we get to see Kit Fisto dual wielding, which is awesome.
We love that.
But also it's like he got the lightsaber back of his fallen apprentice.
Yeah.
Which was a cool
and he prevents his apprentice's lightsaber from becoming a fine addition to Grievous's collection.
Indeed. Yeah. Which I feel like is a kind of it's a good thing to kind of be able to keep the honor of like this Jedi. It's like because to be like for their lightsaber to be a trophy in the hands of Grievous is like kind of it adds insult to injury.
Oh, for sure.
Literally to injury.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, just we got some really cool lightsaber fights in this series of episodes.
We did.
Yeah. Just lots of great action and cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I'll say again that like definitely the choreography for especially the fighting has the bar has been raised with these episodes. Yeah. We didn't really get it in the first episode, the Bombad Jedi. There were no lightsabers in that episode, but we did get cool.
There was a Jedi.
There was a Jedi, yeah, of sorts. But we did get cool Padme action in that episode. So yeah, it was good.
That is super cool. I'm reading this quote on Wikipedia about this episode from Dave Filoni, where he says, "I tend to think of the episode Lair of Grievous as a look more into the mind of Grievous. How you interpret the story depends largely on what backstory you like. If you believe Grievous was shot down in a shuttle by Dooku and put back together, I think that story is there. It's just that Grievous has invented this new story of choosing his alterations. If you don't believe in the EU version of the story or didn't like it, then perhaps this new revelation that Grievous was a warrior whose lust for power made him choose to be altered suits you better."
I honestly didn't know either of those stories. Yeah,
but I like that idea that like this because this episode obviously came out back when the expanded universe was still like a thing. Yeah, and it, we didn't have the new Disney canon,
right? Because this was released on Cartoon Network.
Yes. Yeah. So there was, I guess, some expanded universe material that said like basically Grievous was shot down by Dooku and then reassembled and turned into his warrior. And then there's this other version that you could also interpret from this, but both of them work with this episode. Yeah. And they both kind of give you insights into Grievous as a character. Like, is it that he was actually a cunning warrior that chose to alter himself this way? Or was it that he is just kind of self-important and he doesn't want to feel like embarrassed or ashamed about the fact that he was basically shot down and saved and forcefully turned this way. Yeah. He wants to embrace it as like, no, this is a strength. I chose this. This is, he doesn't want to give up any, sense of like any appearance of superiority or power or choice. Yeah. That's neat.
I don't know which one I believe more. Or if either of them feel right to me. I'm not sure.
And also this is a quote from I assume earlier on. So like it's possible that there is actually a canon version of this story that has been established since then. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
probably in a comic book or something.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, but like
yeah.
those aren't nearly as accessible as like Disney Plus is for us, because like comics are expensive. It's an expensive
Indeed.
way to
comics are an expensive hobby.
Yes. Yeah, almost as bad as video games. Like it's bad.
Yeah, the tough thing about comics is that you have to like there's just so many of them. There's so much material to like and I think like there are like digital subscription services at this point that you can get a lot of like access to a lot of stuff, but it's not like it's not like comprehensive necessarily, from my understanding.
Right,
it's not necessarily like, you know, if you subscribe to like Marvel's service, you get access to every single Marvel comic ever. You get a big library, but it's like, I don't think it's everything.
Right.
You know, which would be cool if it was, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I think of the three, this was probably my favorite episode of this arc, just because it had Grievous being cool and doing cool things, and like an awesome like lightsaber battle, and also just how cool the Lair of Grievous was.
Yeah,
like the look and feel of that place. It just kind of was an aesthetic we don't normally get.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciated that part, and also we got Kit Fisto, which you can never go wrong with.
You can't.
Yeah, I love him. My boy Kit Fisto, my weird squid boy.
Yeah,
I love him.
Yeah.
But the second episode was also great.
Oh,
like, with, you know, I feel like the second episode was maybe the most like interesting plot wise, just because there's you know, there's more twists and turns, and like
there were
and kind of more going on at once. Whereas the third episode was kind of a more focused story of like, we're looking at this one group of people.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah, it was kind of like more a back and forth cat and mouse kind of thing, versus like there was like turncoats and espionage and like intrigue in the second episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do we think about MVP for this arc? Like, it's tough because like these episodes all have kind of a separate sets of characters each time, right?
Yeah.
It's like the first one, it's like I feel like we could choose like an MVP for each episode. I don't know if I could come up with an MVP for the arc, unless you have an idea.
We could come up with one for each episode. I was just gonna say Dave Grohl is the because of our conversation
of our episode.
Dave Grohl.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah,
Dave Grohl. Come on our podcast. We'll give you an award of some kind.
We will.
I'll buy a cheap trophy and I'll give it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for the first episode, MVP would have to be Padme for just being.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like she's clearly the most competent there, and also is the.
Well, that's
she comes there with the
whenever
mission
she's in the room.
accomplishes.
Padme is always the most competent.
That's true. It's true. But yeah, she comes to Rhodia with a mission, and you know there are some setbacks, obviously, but she accomplishes what her goal was in the end, and you know, gets past setbacks and is a badass in the process.
That's true.
The only other contender I feel like would be Jar Jar, but Jar Jar ultimately doesn't do a ton in this. Like he you know, he like manages to fend off some droids at a couple points, and then like his one big moment is when he comes back with the sea monster and like destroys that all those droids in that ship. And it's like, okay, that was a cool moment, but still like he was not the driver of the action
right
in this episode. It was clearly Padme.
Yep.
Second episode, I feel like it would be Ahsoka.
Yeah. I feel like it would probably be either Ahsoka or Luminara.
Yeah, because like, because like, I mean, I would want to give it to Luminara, except that like, you know, Ahsoka, it's Ahsoka's like decision to kind of trust her instincts that ends up saving Luminara and like getting them out of the situation. And she also like earlier on was like, you shouldn't face Ventress alone, she's too powerful. And Luminara Unduly's like, nah, I got it. It's just one assassin. How hard could it be? And then immediately like almost gets killed.
Yeah,
you know. So that's my perspective. I could give it to either of them.
Yeah.
And I love Luminara. She's great, but I feel like for me it's Ahsoka.
Fair.
For that episode.
I would agree. Yeah.
Cool. And then
it's Kit Fisto.
Sorry, what?
Overall, it's Kit Fisto.
You know what? I'll give it to Kit Fisto. Yeah, he's definitely got to be the MVP of the third episode, and also, yeah, overall, because I mean, there aren't a ton of like Kit Fisto centric episodes. Like we do get some later where like, I think there's a series of episodes on Mon Cala, and Kit Fisto is there for that, and which, by the way, actually kind of gives me some like knowing this context that he had a a youngling that he trained who was
Mon
Calamari,
yeah.
And then he ends up like going in and trying to like he supports the people of Mon Cala later in the Clone Wars. Is cool, but we get shirtless Kit Fisto swimming around underwater, like
yes, great. We love it.
But yeah, I would say Kit Fisto. He's our boy. He deserves MVP.
Kit Fisto.
I love him.
We love him.
Least valuable player though is gotta be the Mon Cala kid who gets himself killed by being stupid. Sorry, kid.
Should have known it was a trap.
You fool! It's in your legacy. It's part of your heritage.
It is.
You gotta actually know that it's a trap.
It's about 20 years away from being part of his heritage.
He's
a cautionary tale.
Heritage, really.
He's a cautionary
tale. That's where Admiral Akbar learned it from.
Yeah. He's like, no.
Yeah. My uncle was a Jedi who got killed because he didn't realize there was a trap.
They might have been cousins. They're about the same age.
I guess they probably would be. Yeah. True.
I know.
What if they were brothers? What if they were actually brothers?
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. All Mon Calamari are related. We know.
Yeah. It is known. This is, yes.
Yeah. Let me see. So we talked about MVP. Lost Limbs, we've decided that it doesn't count for Grievous because he just replaces them and they're robots. We do get a main character kill because Grievous kills a Jedi.
Yep.
Which I feel like it's rare that we get any like actual kills in the Clone Wars, like from main characters. Oh wait, hold on. Ventress is on our list too, and Ventress kills the Senate guard, the Argaius.
Oh yeah.
So that's 2 kills in this arc.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because are we for main character kill count? Are we doing like just named characters, or like? Because I mean, like all the clones probably have some sort of like. Well, most of them have like names that like all the ones that like show up on screen that aren't just like a giant crowd of clones. So like
that's true.
But I think Argaius definitely counts as a kill.
Yes, Argaius counts as a kill. Now that I'm thinking about it, because like if we're just doing named characters, then we would have to take a lot away from Anakin when he kills all the sand people,
and Chopper.
Right? And Chopper. We haven't gotten to Chopper yet.
Yeah, but we will.
Yeah. I guess
you're right,
if I wanted to, I guess I could go back and like count how many clones does Asajj Ventress kill.
Yeah, well,
yeah. I don't know.
No one's listening to this. It doesn't matter.
You know what? You're right. None of this matters. Thanks. You know what?
Part of it might just be that it's 10:30 and I'm tired and I like don't want to like expend brain energy on like what qualifies as a kill in this fictional universe on just our podcast that 6 people listen to.
Yes, I feel like it. Yeah, so I feel like for the sake of this, let's just we'll just do like named character kills, for major characters, and then for Anakin we'll just do as many as we can because it's fun. To try
I like that. Yes.
Cool. So yeah, it's 1 for Asajj Ventress and 1 for Grievous in this arc.
Yep.
We kind of already talked about like what our favorite moments were from these episodes.
Yeah. The action scenes for me.
Yeah. It's actually, the action scenes. It would have to be like the lightsaber battle.
Oh yeah.
That was the coolest, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And we got our cut the chatter. That was a nice little
cut the chatter.
That's I feel a sense of ownership over that voice line now because of our podcast.
Yes. Because it will now be in 17 episodes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bunkers.
Yeah, this is episode 17 we're recording right now, which Man, that's like, I'm impressed with us.
Me
I'm proud
too.
of us,
It's like a real thing.
you know. Yeah, like we've gotten like at first I was like, oh, this is gonna be a lot of work, isn't it? But now that we've gotten into the swing of things and we've gotten into a routine, it's like, no, yeah, this is. It's not too hard to do, and it's fun.
Yeah,
and
this is just my Monday night. Yeah,
yeah, it's cool. It's fun. I like it. Which, by the way, pretty soon we'll have to change our schedule a little bit. So, not that it affects you listeners at home. It's just
it'll just be more confusing for us.
Yes, because I am currently working Wednesday through Sunday, but I am my schedule pretty soon is going to be changing so that I have just a regular Monday through Friday schedule, which is going to be nice. But it also makes it so that I can't do this because I work evenings. So we can't do our usual Monday evening recording. Yeah,
because it's nice because like for you it's like it's your Saturday night, but it's just kind of part of your routine. But for me, it's like this is a weeknight, and it's just gonna like after Marion's down, I can like this is what I like log on, spend a couple hours with my brother, and then go to bed and get up for work the next morning. So yeah, we'll figure something out. I'm not worried.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay. Well, so we didn't talk about how does this episode make the movies and the rest of Star Wars better? Real quick.
Let's see. Kit Fisto.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, Kit Fisto. We get a silly little droid. And actually, we get a couple silly droids.
We get a little Wally T something from
327T.
Yeah,
is his name.
So we get him in the second episode,
and we get the KitchenAid mixer guy.
Yes,
the sassy repair droid.
Yep. So there's that. We get some cool Grievous backstory.
That is true. Yeah. I feel like that's definitely that's probably the biggest thing from these episodes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That, and also just kind of like an eye into the tension between Palpatine and Dooku and Ventress and Grievous, and just kind of like all the tension that's going on there between like Dooku and his two apprentices and Sidious and his apprentice. Right? There's just kind of like this like the rule of two is not going well right now.
Yeah. The thing with the rule of two is that it's almost never followed. But,
yes. It's followed like close-ish. But like, yeah, enough to like from like
keep up appearances.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I would say the Grievous backstory stuff and the stuff about all the goings on with the Sith Lords and their relationships, the sort of tumult there.
Yeah. And then meeting a couple new cool Jedi.
Yes, Kit Fisto and Luminara Unduli.
Yep.
A couple of fun green Jedi.
Hey, it's the Green Jedi arc.
Yeah, it's the Green Jedi arc, and also
Jar Jar.
Also Jar Jar. Yeah. But this is a great arc. This is fun. I feel like I was thinking about it. Like, I feel like in retrospect, like starting this podcast, I was like, okay, like the first season or two of Clone Wars is probably not going to be super great, but whatever, it'll still be fun because we're talking about it together with my brother, and it's still Star Wars, so it'll be enjoyable. But like honestly, we've gotten a lot of really great episodes. Like I think the like level of quality of the Clone Wars from the beginning is, I think, underappreciated.
Yeah, I would say so.
Not to say that every episode is a knockout of the park, but like, they're not all home runs. But I think like part of the impression that people get of the early Clone Wars has to do with the fact that the movie was not great.
Yeah, there's that, and also like I think if you're watching them at the pace that we are, where we can like really kind of like let the episode kind of like stew in our brains for a little bit, like. There's a lot more to like appreciate versus just like if you're just logging on Disney Plus and just like watching like
trying to binge
binging it, just like watch like 6 or 7 episodes like in a sitting, like some like a lot of them are gonna feel like filler episodes. But like if you're just watching a couple episodes a week, like they were released, that's you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, definitely. So I am pleasantly surprised with the the level of quality we're getting out of a lot of these episodes and arcs.
Yeah.
Super fun. I'm looking forward. And then like I said, I was looking at that video of like Ahsoka theme moments, and it just reminded me about like, just looking at some of the like the later episodes and remembering like, oh, that arc is so good. And also looking at like how much improvement there is visually in this show. Like not just in terms of like animation quality and lighting, but also like shot composition and like the dynamics of that. Just it gets more cinematic and cool as time goes on, and it'll be awesome to kind of get to see that that progression over time.
Yeah, I agree. It also visually gets darker over time. Like,
true.
Yeah, it goes from like very bright and cartoony to like more serious and mature.
Yeah, and I feel part of that is they lean more into kind of a more realistic, like cinematic, like lighting and color style. You know, it gets closer to what the movies are. Yeah, because at first it feels very cartoony, but I feel like part of that is because it's still fairly early TV CG.
Oh yeah,
you know.
But I think also just like as like kind of the shine and the excitement of the war kind of wears on, like it and like the Empire, like the shadow of the Empire starts to creep in, and Order 66 starts to loom. Like it gets darker because the galaxy is darker.
Yeah, it fits tonally. Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you all for joining us on this episode. It was a bit of a longer episode, but it was a good one.
We had 3 episodes. Come on.
Yeah, there was 3 episodes, and we also had to talk about Foo Fighters a lot.
We did, as one does.
As one does. No voicemails this week, I don't believe, but if you would like to join the discussion, leave a voicemail for us at 512-850-6653, and we might feature your comments, questions, or corrections on the podcast. And again, that number will be in the description of the episode.
What are we doing next week, Jack?
Join us next time when we'll talk about... Well, I have to pull it up because I didn't put it in the script.
Oh, come on.
This will be good. We will be talking about season 1, episode 11 and 12, Dooku Captured and the Gungan General.
And are we gonna have a guest with us next week, Jack?
I believe so. Our most frequent recurring guest featured on this show, Jason, will be making an appearance as an actual guest, not just via voicemail.
Jason.
Awesome. I'm hyped. That'll be great.
Yep.
So, Jason, you won't hear this before you're a guest, but we can't wait to see you, to hear you.
I know he's excited. He was asking me about like microphone setups and stuff. I think he's like investing in this one podcast experience, which I mean, I guess means we need to bring him on more than just once.
Yeah. In order for him to recoup his costs.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Any final closing thoughts, Sam?
Well, if Jason's coming on, we're also probably going to need to play some more Zelda again. Because we're going to be talking about Zelda. Because
Gotcha.
Yeah, Jason's going to want to talk about Zelda too.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll pick it up again and go through some of the more, like, I'll explore the underground a little more and do some more side quests and stuff. Because I still have a lot more. It's been a while since I picked up the game.
Yeah. I just picked it up this week because I got a new controller for my Switch so I can play it again. So.
Ooh, right. Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, so.
Yay.
It's been fun. That's probably what I'm doing when I log off. But.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me again, Sam. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
And thank you to all of us, all 12 of you who are listening to this.
Yeah.
Unless in like 3 years from now, our podcast blows up and we've got like a couple thousand people listening.
That'd be cool.
In which case, hello, future listeners, or maybe you don't exist. But either way, we're going to keep doing it because it's fun.
I like to believe they exist.
I like to believe that someday we'll be like, in like 6 years, we'll like have a Hall H Comic-Con panel. It's just us doing the podcast.
Wow.
Maybe not Hall H. Maybe not Comic-Con. Maybe not a panel. Maybe just like, we'll rent out a community theater and have.
I think what's gonna happen. If anything like that happens, it's going to be you and I. We're already planning on going to like a Star Wars celebration or something. We bring a microphone and a laptop and just like hide in a corner somewhere at Star Wars Celebration, and then just like try and flag people over, like, "Hey, come talk to us," and like
that would be awesome.
I want to do that now.
Amazing.
That'll be fun.
Yes. Yeah, but we'll have a walk and talk episode where we like just walk around and be like, "Hey, you want to be on our podcast?"
Yeah, we are recording right now. Yeah. What's your name? Where are you from? Who are you cosplaying as? And yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We got big dreams.
We do.
We'll get there. All right. Well, it's been great.
Yes.
And we'll see you around, Sam, and you will hear us again in our next episode when we're with Jason and other such things, and we'll talk about other stuff, and it'll be good and fun, and may the Force be with you all.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody.
All right, cut the chatter. Roger, Roger.